Welcome everybody. We are here today. We're going to put together a presentation for everybody, specifically for the Clay Brigade of the Redemption card game. And for my partner that's joining us today, he's actually my identical twin brother, Jonathan De La Rosa. And
hello.
How you doing, everyone? How's my brother doing? And just so you know, we're on slide 1. So, Jonathan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the Redemption card game?
Well, Redemption's been around since 1995. It's, as Christians know, a counterculture to Magic the Gathering, but it was created by Rob Anderson. He actually saw Magic the Gathering, and he saw lots of redeeming qualities in the game, but there were still some qualities in the game that he was concerned about, like some of the artwork. But thus, Redemption, the collectible card game, was created, and there's over 20 plus expansions in the game, and every year they release, or they do their best to release one set every year, and they do incorporate older cards from some of the previous sets and the newer booster packs to kind of help the players kind of catch up, so to say. But anyways, it's a card game that we all enjoy. I very much enjoy the game myself, and I play the game, obviously. But there's different categories and formats that you can play the game. You can actually play teams, sealed, booster draft, and Redemption has tournaments locally and even on a national level, and they have a national tournament every year, and the tournament is hosted in various churches or locations throughout the country. So.
Okay, well said. So we're going to focus our attention to slide 2 right now. And, for the viewers or the listeners, part of this video, the presentation speakers is my brother and I. And just to kind of give people an overview about my partner here is obviously Jonathan De La Rosa, my brother. He's also the co-founder of the South Florida Redemption Playgroup, as well as the co-founder of the leading Redemption-themed YouTube channel, as well as he's a co-founder of the Redeemer webzine, and he's a former Nationals finalist, as well as he's the current Southeastern Regionals champion.
Don't give me too much credit. I don't want you to
build
me up so much.
Don't blush.
You're gonna give me some really big shoes to fill here. But anyways, and it's my pleasure to introduce and give you some of the accolades of my co-host here for the presentation, Andrew De La Rosa. He's actually the founder of the South Florida Redemption Playgroup, and he also founded the leading Redemption Team YouTube channel, as mentioned earlier, and he was formerly sponsored by Three Lions Gaming, and he's the founder of Deck Metrics Creative Solutions. And he was also the founder and producer of the Redeemer webzine, and he's a former Southeast Regional finalist, and he's a 3-time and current Florida State champion.
Thank you.
Redemption.
Thank you, John. Also for the viewers, we've been playing since 2008 during the Rock of Ages expansion. We first participated and tournament play with the TXP expansion. We've also hosted many tournaments before. We've operated as judges, writers, reporters, volunteers, you name it. We're basically some of them, I guess, the more well-known or established active players in the southeastern region of the United States.
And I'd also say like facilitators too, as well.
Yeah.
Since we were hosting the South Florida, specifically within the southeast region.
Right.
And we did lead groups, our play group, to like the Central Florida area for state and regional tournaments.
Right.
And then also, videos
and
podcasts as well.
Right. Well, we need to focus our attention on slide 3 right now. So it's the presentation agenda. We're going to cover the history of clay. We're also, by the numbers, we're going to do an overview.
Not to be confused with fight by the numbers.
Yeah, it's basically going to be an overview of the Clay Brigade. We'll cover some of the strengths and weaknesses of clay, and then we'll close this presentation. So going to the next slide, number 4, the history of clay. Clay first released since 2014 in the early church expansion. And clay is also available in other expansions, and since its release,
Persecuted church.
yeah, since Cloud of Witnesses, and the brigade is also unique to New Testament heroes. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide, slide number 5. So we're going to cover by the numbers. Okay, so for clay, currently, approximately there's 152 cards in print that contain clay. Over 30 cards in print contain an element of control.
Like, I love to just name drop, like Mercy of James.
Right, if a card either control, prevents, or negates, as well as some other key elements, that's how these statistics have been calculated. And then point number 3, we have over 20 cards in print that contain the element of protection or immunity, that sort of thing. And then our last point, there's almost 20 cards in print that contain an element of removal. Now I have some stats here in my notes that I didn't put on the slide, so apologies, my viewers. About 47% of clay are heroes, and 47% are enhancements. So there's an even split amongst heroes and enhancements. About 3% are sites. About 2% of clay are covenants and dual enhancements. So now you have the breakdown of the numbers of clay. So anyways, moving on to the next slide, I believe is number 6, by the numbers, strengths. So about 22% of clay is control. About 14% of clay is protection. About 13% of clay is removal. Clay is strong if you want to control your game. So these are cards you're going to want to manipulate the will of your opponent. Such abilities like control, prevent, negate. And then clay is also strong if you don't want to lose your cards in the games, which is why you want some protection. And as well as clay is strong if you want aggression in your game. And we have a little pie chart here with some figures broken down for you.
Andrew, could you give us an example of what you mean by aggression? Is it possible you can expand it a little bit for our viewers or listeners?
Yeah, sure. Aggression is considered an element of removal. So anything that basically removes a character from play or from battle, things such as convert, capture, decrease, discard, set aside from battle, of course, shuffle, toss, underdeck, withdrawal. those are elements of aggression because they remove the threats in play or in battle. So that's what I would mean by aggression.
Okay, that sounds great. And I imagine that definitely gives our viewers or listeners, you know, an example of what you mean by aggression. So like a picture, so to say, a word picture.
Right.
Helps me to understand.
Right. And to give people a better understanding of some elements of control, besides the obvious prevent, interrupt, negate, there are other key elements that kind of fit that category, like copy, play, give, transfer, that sort of thing, because those basically control the pace of the game, which is also known as tempo, or they can influence certain outcomes of the game, hence its element of control. So now we're going to go to the next slide, number 7. Also, we're going to cover more of the strengths here, but these are more like suggestions. So for new players, we suggest, clay is good because it provides plenty of protection. This is good for new players because, if you don't want to lose your cards in battle, obviously you need some protection to give you some assurance that you're not going to be losing your cards in battle. As for advanced players, clay is good because it provides plenty of control. So, control is a certain style in the game that's probably a little bit more complicated to play. And I'll let my brother kind of touch on that. Why is control complicated to play?
Well, for example, since the release of Clay, there was a new kind of like sub-theme, I would say, within the Clay Brigade with the introduction of the churches, the like subtypes, Thessalonican, Jerusalem, Corinthian, Roman. It's kind of similar to like the civilizations, like Herod's, Philistine, Judean kings of Israel. Kind of similar to that in that sense, but specifically like Clay Brigade introduced that. So you do kind of have to do your research a little bit with seeing like which abilities and mechanics of the churches, how they influence one another, and how they have a synergy amongst one another. For example, like the Philippi church,
right?
They're kind of known for like edifying, like the letter of Philippians is very edifying and uplifting and encouraging letter of the epistles in the Bible. So
right.
The theme within that church is that they kind of give each other an increase in strength and toughness to kind of reflect that.
Right. So I would say it's a little bit more advanced to play control with clay because there's a lot of things you have to anticipate. There's a lot going on in the cards and the identifiers, things to set up, things to look out for, things to analyze, lots of details. That's why we recommend, if you're going to go for the control elements in the Clay Brigade, you probably want to be an advanced player. You want to have a general idea. You want to know what's going on before you kind of delve into that strength of clay. That's why.
For example, like some of them have, like part of the ability, it's like a variable, like X, Y. That'll be usually like equal to the number of Corinthian heroes you have in play.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why if you're still learning, we would recommend don't get involved in that just yet. You learn more about the colors, learn more about the game before you kind of touch into that. But if you really do want to stick with clay, we suggest that new players try to build an aggressive deck with protection instead, because those are two other strengths of clay. You can focus on the protection benefits of clay to ensure your heroes survive, and then you can have the the aggression of removal in your game. And we think that's a very reasonable deck type to go with. Now, if you're an advanced player, we'd recommend that you play with control and removal. So clay looks like it's a good a good color to build a deck that's very aggressive and very controlling, because these are two of its strengths. You have a good amount of resources to build into that. So moving on to our next slide, slide number 8. So we're going to cover some of the weaknesses of clay. So about 1% of clay is restriction, about 2% of clay are hand abilities, about 3% of clay is disruption and battle effects. Clay is weak in restriction, so it's not good to consider to build like a tempo deck or a deck that kind of adjusts the tempo of your opponent. Tempo might be cards like you return things to your opponent's hand, you might underdeck cards from their hand, or underdeck or top deck cards from play. You're basically disrupting the flow of how they set up their strategy. That's what disruption and tempo would kind of qualify as. So, again, clay is weak in disruption, so it's not good to consider for tempo. And then it's also weak in battle effects, so you probably want to avoid strong battle decks that rely on big banding chains, things of that nature. Although there's elements of removal in clay, it may not size up very well in a deck that's very strong in battle, like say through characters or banding, like Red Brigade. Red Brigade is notorious for long banding chains. Clay may not necessarily size up in a situation like that. So sorry if I'm kind of speaking kind of fast. We got to wrap this up pretty soon. So slide 9. Oops. Okay, hold on a second. I have a little bit of technical difficulties here. My present. Yeah, hold on. I gotta get this presenting on the device again. So, okay, it's loading up, and what slide I said I was on?
9, by the numbers, weaknesses.
Okay, so, all right, so almost there. Okay, number 9, more weaknesses. What do you know? So for new players, clay is bad in battle effects. So avoid, battle decks, strong battle decks, like I was saying earlier. For advanced players, clay is bad in disruption and tempo. So try combining clay with another color if you want to achieve that style of play, because you may see a lot of disruption or tempo combined with control, and clay actually has a lot of control, but it's not necessarily going to have enough cards to do disruption. So if you were to build a deck that has control and you want to disrupt your opponent or set off their tempo, you may want to try another color. That's all we're saying in this case. So we're going to go to our last slide. So, we're going to be closing our presentation. We're thankful and grateful for every viewer that could participate in this. And, if you have any questions, we have some info about us on the screen. Both my brother and I, we reside in the southeastern region. We both reside in the state of Florida. Now, I mainly play in the South Florida playgroup, while my brother mainly plays in the Central Florida playgroup. We both participate in live tournaments and casually online through Lackey CCG. And you might wonder, what's Lackey CCG? Well, we conveniently put it a thumbnail to the right along with the link. It's a gaming platform that's easy to download. It's free to use. You can check that out. Our phone numbers and emails are attached on the presentation. So feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. And for the viewers, to kind of give you an incentive, the first 5 callers that give me a call, I will provide a free basic qualitative deck analysis for your deck, because I am the founder of Deck Metrics. It's an analytical service for players that want to compete seriously. If you want to see what's that about, I'd recommend you give me a call or shoot me an email. And, thank you once again, everybody. Thank you for your time. We love the Lord, and we want to just give all the glory be to God. And thank you for joining us here today.